Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2, the Global StarCraft League Grand Finals, Season 1 of 2023. You're not going to be the least bit surprised to see the #1 ranked Terran, and arguably the best player in the entire world. In the red, it is the man, the myth, the Maru, looking to continue his dominance with an unprecedented 6th GSL victory, up against another GSL champion, oft forgotten in the grand scheme of things, always underestimated but never equaled. It is the People's Terran, under fire from the Reaper. Before we even finish the dramatic introduction, it is Cure, battling his way through another quiet yet deadly run for the People's Terran to make it all the way here, going through Terrans, Zergs, Terrans, Protoss, and Terrans alike in order to battle to the tippy top of StarCraft prestige. And now, before we go any further, and before we comment on Cure's very bold command center first, I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe. Thank you so much to GSL for offering the opportunity via Patreon to check out the matches, the replays afterwards for the first time here in 2023, having that opportunity. So I hope you enjoy my take on it, my commentary, as many of you have been enjoying over the past weeks, months, years, decade or so. So thank you for watching. And if we get 1,000, I mean, it's the GSL finals, let's go bigger, 1,500 likes, then, well, I'll cast another series, though probably not as prestigious, tomorrow. Or the next day. Though I'll probably do it anyways, because I literally don't know what else I would do with my life but cast StarCraft 2 series, so hopefully you enjoy. Let's delve into it. TVT, the technical chess boxing match. Everybody loves Ravens, but do they know how to use them? Cure went for a command center first here in game 1, which is something very rarely seen in this matchup, but altitude has a huge rust distance and a ramp up to the natural. So it is about as defensible as it gets in the early game, but Maru is an expert at circumventing the defender's advantage and turning it into one of his own. On the other side, a 1 Rax expand for Maru and a 3rd command center already. Reaper comes in, looking to distract. Meanwhile, Widowmine drop. It'll burrow. Doesn't find much, hits a mule, almost loses the medevac to the Cyclone. Cure, capable defense thus far. The build orders are so important in TVT, in any mirror matchup where both sides literally have access to the same units. But Terrans have some of the most dynamic units in the early game. What do I mean by that? Just the ability to affect the game in such different ways. Like, you can only get so much mileage out of a Zergling, or a Roach, or even a Stalker. But the Raven is the Swiss Army knife of Terran, which I think is just a Swiss Army knife, technically. But Cyclones can be used in many different ways. Vikings for air control are a staple. I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these games. Cure is particularly adept at this, is the very late game, the Sky Terran Raven Viking style, which is a whole lot happening so quickly, and you gotta kind of wade your way through the chaos. And TVT is the most likely of all the mirror matchups to end up at that late game stage, as between siege tanks, Ravens, air control, or at least a defensive position, it becomes very difficult to cost effectively, or even at all, break into their base. But we're going to start out with a relatively standard spread here. We got 3 Rax, 3rd CC, Raxes 4 and 5 on the way. Maru with a literal production line in his base, with the vast majority of his production. It's some real Factorio gameplay here. Should resonate with a lot of you out there. More your speed, but don't insult your audience in game 1, all right? They won't come back. Stim 1 second apart for both players. Cure sends out a double drop. Maru has double drop himself. Great minds think most alikeist. And the purposes might be slightly different, but the effect will be the same. Scan sees a single turret here. A surprising lack of units. Cure is discouraged, though, as Maru is clearly somewhat prepared for the drop. On the other side, the Ravens will potentially create a beachhead for the rest of the units. There are no turrets here in Cure's main, which could be an abrupt disaster. Cure didn't realize where the rest of Maru's units went, but that realization, I think, is about to come through. And the Ravens getting involved mean interference matrix is a possibility. Just slaps down an auto turret once the tank unsieges. Auto turrets from both sides. Anti-armor missile gonna be used on the Marines, and that will be enough to drive him back. As you can see, the Raven just adapting to the changing circumstances on both sides. Maru wanted to go for the interference matrix and lock down the siege tank before it could evacuate, but Cure predicted that, and he used his own Raven for an anti-armor missile to make sure the Marines would be softened up enough to clean up. So both sides deflected, but then he dives into the main. It's a bit of a disaster, as the Marines are already there, ready. Honestly, I think that scan into the main earlier may have given away the intent, and now, of course, he's shown his hand, just to be sure. But Maru knows that a double drop is a strong opportunity, considering he's doing it himself at the exact same time on the other side of the map. Well, Marines will drop out. Cyclone locks on, but doesn't find the medevacs. Will be gunned down behind the refineries here. Wait, there's another medevac back here. I think Maru forgot about that one, but bringing it in actually manages to drop out. Supplies are dead even, but Maru looking to widen the gap. 7 SCVs so far. Medevac goes down. 8, 9. Just keeps adding on. Finds 10. So, at the end of the day, Cure plummets to even on the SCV count, as he's clearly been quite diligent about producing. 2-2 is on the way. Maru has about a 30-second advantage on those infantry upgrades. No mech upgrades yet, but Maru is opting for a second factory now. I'd be surprised if he didn't start at least +1 mech weapons soon, as that's such a huge part of the army company. How do these drops keep getting in? How does this keep happening? Still hasn't been critical damage, but it's starting to really add up. And now the armies are so large, you can't really afford to keep too much of yours pinned back in the base. All right, the tank's up in front. Cure snaps him. Oh, no! Oh, God. He picks him up into the medevac, and then the tank's really questioning whether that was the right medevac to be in. A bit dicey there. Cure about a half step behind on all this, which honestly is kind of what we expected to see going into the series, or at least I did. But Cure's main strength is in choosing, well, both his macro, as we've seen. He keeps taking hits and bouncing back. But he's very good at surviving. He just doesn't seem to die. Even if he loses a medevac here, a bunch of Marines there, he's gonna have another army ready. And that may bait your opponent potentially into overcommitting, though Maru not well known for that. Or, alternatively, just attacking into much stronger positions than they expect. Maru's still going to work the drops here. The medevac, the scan spotted the medevacs with the units. Cure is in position. Maru's army, the mini-map is a bit of a mess right now. Maru looking to chase it down. I mean, the Cure looking to chase it down. He hunts down and kills the Marines, trying to give himself an opportunity. There aren't enough Marines out over here. Maru just drops out a sizable army right outside the natural. Plops it down. Cure collapses on it. Will he be able to crush it by the time Maru swings in with another force? Up to the north side. This is the main brunt of Maru's attack. Coming in from the north, but Cure is able to rotate back around in time. And Maru just keeps... He can't stop the drop. Medevacs... Some of them taken out. +1 mech weapons is about to be done. But Maru keeps finding damage and pulling Cure somewhat out of position. There's still a couple Ravens here with near full energy. Interference matrix or even an anti-armor missile or two. Maru won't stop. Oh no. Did Cure wall off his siege tanks? Otherwise, why is that tank stuck back there? All right, it's a house tank. I'm still not sure. They're just like us. Main army, spotted out by the scans. Maru scrambles 3-4 tanks simultaneously, but there's enough Marines in a concave on the high ground. I don't know if Maru can break through. He creates a bit of a beachhead by locking down those tanks, but overall Cure gets the better end of that exchange. As just because you take out half the tanks, the other half, especially with +1 mech weapons, more than capable. Maru only starts +3 infantry weapons, whereas Cure has 3-3, though slightly delayed. 2 tanks at a time. Just working around. Maru keeps looking for weakness, and Cure holding strong. A flexible defense thus far. He's been attacked at almost literally every turn. Drops to the main, to the natural, right in the front. And the frontal tank pushes as well, but Cure has held strong and maintains a 10 supply lead, though they're both closing in on 200, so. Another scramble. Not particularly meaningful. Tries to get the second Raven. Raven's out of energy here. Maru breaking up Marines, getting splattered across the field, but Cure finally finds his opportunity. Maru is sending everything across the map, but Cure has waited for this moment. And this moment he's gonna get. 20 SCVs down and an orbital command, and he gets out. Cure finds the timing. Maru's relentless aggression is matched by Cure's tactical timing. Once again, Cure drops into the main, but the tanks are sieging, so the drops will eventually be dealt with. Most of the medevac's empty here, as Maru's just sending everything into the main. A bit of a haphazard attempt here, as a Viking or two will be able to drive it away. Still the tanks, but both sides continue just slamming into Marines, dropping in and out of bases. Cure caught a little off guard, but Maru still hasn't secured his third. Well, Raven comes back. Cure snipes it off, doesn't quite get the orbital repaired at the last second. 3-3 is about to complete for Cure. The supplies are still incredibly high. He can just drop on the siege tanks. Marines, dangerously close, so close. The siege tanks are unable to fire on them. And takes out a couple. Cure begins dismantling Maru's attack. But the orbital is under fire. May very well need to lift it soon. Okay, he does. He does. Cure sends a lot of units across the map. The Marines can't get close enough. One medevac taken out. Most of Cure's army is across the map now. Cure looking to close in. Maru actually caught off guard, clearly panicking, but manages to pick up the tanks and potentially evacuate. Are there enough units here? Does he go for the stim and split? That's so many siege tanks. Unsieged again. +2 is done for Cure on the mech weapons. A big damage upgrade for those siege tanks that Maru doesn't quite have. He's got the +3 armor on the way as well. Cure with a couple SCVs and a Reaper mixed into the army. Just whatever he dragged into a box there. But Cure going straight up the gut. Maru is scrambling back on the minimap. He has almost nothing back at home. But directly in towards the production is Cure. So the medevacs straggling behind, the siege tanks are taking their tons of flesh. Oh my, huge losses suffered, but he does make it into the main. Maru scrambles back to defend. He has to bring SCVs. Already an incredibly hectic game 1 of the GSL finals. And clearly these players very evenly matched here. Cure continues stutter stepping through, but he eventually gets cleaned up. Maru loses 28 SCVs in the process. Looking to drop on top. Cure dips a bit in supply, though he still has something of an economy. The income advantage keeps swinging back and forth based on who still has bases intact. Oh, a devastating drop! Maru tried to catch Cure off guard, but plenty of units in position, and Maru ends up losing 20 supply, including some valuable siege tanks and medevacs. And again, Maru's forced to pick up, but this time heads the other direction. Cure is holding. Maru kind of falling on his own sword a bit, as he is very predictable, very Beyond-esque with those medevac drops. And Cure has begun to shut them down. Unfortunately, though, no sensor tower means that the planetary fortress will be besieged. And the SCVs aren't actually repairing. Okay. This is going to be a tough break. The planetary cannot fly. SCVs being lost. Cure, split, stims. A bit of a haphazard start to the fight. Gonna pick up the Marines. I'm not sure where he's going with them. Actually just gives up the tanks. Interesting choice there from Maru. Expecting not to be able to hold on, but joins up with the main army. Already a tank siege. One Liberator added in. Very helpful against the tanks if he can make it work. The Marine count is so low that he actually has no anti-air here, and a single Liberator will dislodge all the siege tanks. And yet again, Cure holds, and he turns the tables on Maru. How many times are we gonna go around here? Oh, altitude making me dizzy. Maru still maintains a slight supply lead. He actually has a few more SCVs now. Though the siege tank count, 9 siege tanks to 6, and that Liberator helping to force the issue. Upgrades dead even. And Cure keeps dislodging the tanks, whittling them down. On paper, Cure has the better army. He's lifting his main command center now, heading north. Liberator. Looking, Maru has to unsiege immediately. Cure can jump it potentially. He scans forward. He doesn't have that many Marines. He's going straight into a concave. Maru eats a hit. Another loss. The siege tanks, 9-4. In favor of Cure, who's methodically working his way up towards this third base location again. Maru is pinned back. He's got nothing on the other side of the map. No one has an easy way to deal with the medevacs for vision. Cure says, wait, that's a good idea. Sends it out. Both sides building Vikings now. Clearly inspired. Alright, Cure splits stims. Goes for the tanks. Gets 1, gets 2. Bottled up. Maru's Marines are in a tough position as Cure grinds into a supply lead. Still struggling. Oh, just an epic battle between these two. Exactly what you'd want from the GSL finals. And game 1 is still very much up in the air. Just like most of the units in these medevacs, Cure turns around abruptly. That may have cost him valuable time, though, as Maru heads across the map. It's just impressive how these players are able to keep their supply so high, despite all the losses. Maru just takes out the orbital and potentially carries the momentum through. Still some siege tanks in the back. Good splits from Maru, but there's just too much splash damage. And the Marines are spread across the field, no longer intact. And Cure, Maru stepped a little too far into those siege tanks. And he actually ends up losing a huge amount of his supply for it. 163 to 134. Cure has kept the tanks alive. He's now got over double. I believe it was 11-4 at last count. That is almost untenable. Without some dramatic switch or a ridiculously good fight, you simply cannot fight that many siege tanks. Maru has to go around. He's not even building any tanks himself, just Marines. Another base isolated. Forced to lift. All the SCVs will be gunned down. And the orbital as well. Now the SCVs might live, but the Viking count is Cure. Playing like a champion right now. Maru with a desperate counterattack, but I think he's shown his hand so many times that Cure can't help but see it coming. He's fallen back, looking for where Maru's army has gone, and he's gonna find it. Wait. Okay, he saw right here. There's a scan. Cure knows. He smells blood in the frozen water. And Maru gonna try to trade, but the Vikings will work on the medevacs and the Marines will do the rest. Another army heading out from Maru. Couple siege tanks, bunch of Marines, no medevacs with any of that. Cure, he's on the cusp of victory here. He just needs to lock it down. Maru always dangerous as long as he has a few Marines. The game is not yet over. Another base denied. Cure is barely mining right now. One particularly bad fight. And it could still turn, though Cure has gained a lot of momentum. Another fight. The SCV's pulled. Tanks will attempt to siege. Cure's handling it. SCV's citizens arrest. Wait, no, you gotta kill the tank. Oh my. Almost flat. Oh, there's still Marines, though. The orbital's potentially vulnerable. Cure's down to 30 SCVs. Maru has more, but many of them are with the main army. I can't believe he's pulling it. He taps it out. Cure takes game 1. Okay. Well. Well, certainly. One of the highest level TVTs I've ever seen. Both players true to form. Maru with the relentless aggression, and Cure holding on and biding his time. And at the end of the day, eventually Maru, the diminishing returns were so great, he didn't end up returning at all. And that means we're going to return to the series with a 1-game lead for the People's Terran. Game 2 on Dragon Scales, the Global StarCraft League Finals 2023. Maru in a conspicuous location with his SCV is doing one of the weirder proxy-ish ranks that is not along the normal scouting path. So, well, thankfully for Kier, he did not go command center first this game. I doubt we'll see it again, to be honest. So, a half and half proxy ranks here. Kier knows Maru. He's not gonna like, it's such an obvious location, it becomes much less so, but he finds one. So the implications of this are very interesting, and this is when it becomes even more of a poker game, where so Kira's seen 1 barracks, but what do you expect to accomplish with a single proxy Rex? I think Kira knows there's more than one, because 1 barracks Reaper doesn't make any sense. Yeah, he's already pre-pulled the SCVs. Maru's just gonna slap down a proxy factory because, of course he is. He's gonna not even double down. He's just gonna add another layer of cheese on. And yeah, Kier clearly knew the threat would not end with a singular Reaper, but it's still a dangerous proposition. That's why he's got the SCVs pulled off the line. Starport on the way. Reapers hanging out. What does he build? Is that just for a Hellion? Hellion to get there quicker? Looks like yes from Maru. The intent being, ooh, Kier's a bit supply blocked on his Hellion, which could end up coming to bite him, as the Hellion of Maru is nearly completed. Oh, his second Hellion for Kier. There's going to be a very thin but dangerous timing where Maru does have the unit count to potentially break through. As Kier right now has 2 Hellions, a Reaper, and 4 Marines, which there's enough Reapers here for Maru. And he already got up the ramp, which was one of the main defender's advantages. The SCVs we pulled 4 die in a single volley, as some of them are already softened up. 5, 6 SCVs. Kier's down to 19. So even if he defends this, it's starting to get really rough here. As, oh my god, he also proxied the starport. Yeah, okay, why not? When in Rome. Jeez, I did. Command center behind. So the Cloak Banshee could be devastating, though it is incredibly obvious as well. There's already the Vikings on the way. Gonna provide high ground vision here for the tank. And there's nothing to really challenge the tank until that Banshee is Cloak. And the positioning of the add-ons is now going to be... whoa, it's bad. So despite scouting this, Kier still may very well succumb to Maru's cheeky tank plays here. Unsieges the tank. Allows him a little more space for micro. Cloak is not done. Even if Maru knows it's coming, what is he gonna do? He's gonna have to save the scans. Maru really pressing the issue. It's going to be a tough break. It's... The Cloak, he saved a scan, right? He has a scan exactly this moment. It will be used immediately. Oh my god, Cure predicted it! Cure! What a play! Oh my, that may have saved the game. That may very well have saved the game. He just drives right through it. Just preempting it. And that means Maru has to turn all the way around and he has no way to save his tanks. He's gonna lose both tanks to the most obvious cloaked Banshee of his career. Cure! With the most subtle, low effort but high effect micro play. He just keeps driving. Alright, he flies right through the scan, predicting that the Vikings will be looking for it. And by no means does that mean Cure wins the game. But he's bought himself a few more minutes with that little play there. A Raven is on the way. Cure is still in tough economic straits. A single Banshee on the way back across. Maru, I think, predicting this, or at least something of the sort. Banshee looking for its opportunity. There is a missile turret in the main, gets a hit, but this is one way of getting back into it. Gets another kill. Good positioning. Delayed the production. Raven's here, though. Trying to get another kill, but... And still... Does he pull the voice? You're gonna try to build a command center on the low ground? Ooh, he can't even... The traffic jam on the ramp. It's... Okay. Well, it's not going great. Clearly not an ideal timing. Maru with the... is so brazen. He just built all of his base on the other side of the map. 5 more SCVs go down. You're still at a significant deficit, and he's losing Banshees to pull this off. The add-ons could be stolen, but in a bit of a too vulnerable location. Well, it is not good for the People's Terran right now. Even though the supplies are about even, well, the SCV count is desperate for Cure. 22. The Reapers, which have no real further value past this point, they're not going to be a big part of the main army. That is the best case scenario for the Reapers, is getting some SCV kills, and he gets 6 of them, which is more than he would have bargained for. Oh, it's going to be equal parts Cure genius plays and Maru mistakes to bring this game back in Cure's favor, but we will see. Maru he's just locking it down. He's making sure he maintains air control. One of the few ways you can lose to an inferior army is by losing air control, whether it's for the siege tank vision. Speaking of losing air control, oh my god, did he see both? He saw both starports. I didn't notice this. Alright, that's my failure, but he saw both starports with the Reapers, but he confirms it with the Hellion Cyclone. And at this stage, Maru, no, quite a gamble from Cure here. Gonna try to use Liberators to break through with some air control, but between the Ravens and the Vikings, Maru is building missile turrets, which just doing whatever he can to deal with what is an inevitable all-in from Cure at this point. Cure, I think definitely one of the more creative options, but just adding continued missile turrets. Maru has pinpointed, like, as long as I don't get broken by Liberators, I'm probably fine. And then, of course, Maru being Maru sends out... He's going to rely on missile turrets for defense. Salvaging the bunker. A suspicious lack of units. I think you're starting to realize, like, what's up with that? The missile turrets will force the tanks to keep sieging. This is Maru. Like, I don't even think Maru has to do this, but he's just decided, I'm gonna go win now. Vikings hit the deck. Cure is in purgatory, trying to break through on the other side of the map. But the turrets have prevented the push for so long that the Vikings are now just devastating. Cure is losing almost literally every SCV. He's down to 1. Now he's got to try to execute this tank push, knowing he's at 0 SCVs. Maru pulls the boys. He can, as long as he loses all but 1, he has a lead. Vikings on deck. SCVs in front. And Maru is tearing through everything. Maru takes game 2. Tying it up. Pretty decisive. Did not shy. Like, it almost felt like he wanted to be scouted. It's one of those, like, just because you see it doesn't mean you know anything. Cure actually defended so well, it ended up hurting. A more bare bones defense might have allowed him to have the economy later on. I'm not exactly sure how he would do that, but that's for him to figure out. He's in the GSL finals, not me, believe it or not. Well, we're all tied up heading in to game number 3 of this best of 7. Grezvin. Ooh. Probably our most dramatic map of the current map pool. The longest games featured here overall. This in Royal Blood, usually. And I don't see TVT as an exception. Everyone, well, Cure's sending an SCV out, but I don't believe early enough for a proxy. Looks like we're settling down a bit here in game 3. Maru got his I'm sure it was planned out. It just felt very off the cuff. I'm gonna build a factory, now I'm gonna build a starport. What are you gonna do about it? But and Cure clearly not confident enough to take the initiative against it. I do want to see if another game plays out. And it's a big if with Maru. In a more macro-oriented fashion, what Cure chooses to do. Because it was he just straight up won. Marine tank versus marine tank. Mano a mano. Mecha mech. He took the better of Maru there, so. We haven't yet seen any direct mech attempts. That was the closest thing. I think desperately building Vikings and Liberators doesn't really count as Sky Terran. More just a desperation move. Double Reaper. Here, gonna try to sneak in. 1 Reaper ready. Reactored Hellions from Maru. Here boldly jumping in. Evades the grenade. And there is a window here where he can get some damage done. Gets an SCV. Looking for more. Maru micro's back. Good micro so far. Doesn't want to stick around and find out what's coming out of the reactored factory because he has a pretty good idea already. Starport a little quicker for Maru. Cure. A little slower on the command center. I think this all comes down to the double Reaper as opposed to just one. It does delay the rest a bit. Raven on the way for Maru. Wouldn't be surprised to see the same very soon for Cure. But no. Medevac. He picks a Medevac. Alright. That means Cure is going to go for the aggressive early game. Use the Cyclones, the Reapers, try to essentially jump into the main or leapfrog into the main and establish a beachhead so quickly that Maru has no chance to react. And if the Raven is not on Maru's side of the map, or if the tank's a little out of position, in fact, he's not building a tank, that's Cure who's building a tank, then that could spell disaster. But he isn't sending that first medevac across. He's putting the Marines together. Cure? Okay. He wants maybe the tank? It's just a bunch of Hellions from Maru. Well, this is an odd fight. Not unseen or unheard of, but... Well, the Hellions just kind of jump on the Cyclones. The Cyclones don't really have any great targets to lock onto besides the Raven. Raven escapes. Down goes the Cyclone. Cure's forced to show his hand. He ends up losing one of the clones. So overall, I think a good start there for Maru. SCVs will repair the clones. And this doesn't mean mech. Instead, it's going to be 2 more racks. Get Stim Pack. And now Cure, a bit flustered, but puts everything together. And sends it across the map. He's got the Vikings as well. He's continuing to build more as time goes on here. Oh, what is in there? Is that the Cyclone? Yes, he's got a Cyclone and 4 Marines. And then the tanks waiting for their opportunity at the front. And dives directly into the main. The engineering base just finishing up there for Maru. Will not be delayed. Most of the units now, Cure wanders into a tank shot. Gets cleaned up by the Hellions. So, on both fronts, Cure is rebuffed. But Maru only has a siege tank and a few Hellions. Of course, those Ravens are doing a lot of heavy lifting here, potentially, for the army. As without them, yet the Vikings... Well, targets down 1 Raven. There's very limited anti-air. Cure was already unsieging the tanks before the interference matrices landed. Otherwise, he would have been locked into that position, unable to unsiege. So great reaction time there by Cure. And he maneuvers around yet again. Maru. Still struggling to find a position. He lost one of the Ravens. I think the interference matrices were a little premature. He didn't have the units to jump on. So now Cure is lodged into... He's already shelling, kills one of the tanks. The orbital's under fire. Pressure is mounting for Maru here, who finished Stim, but he's still a long way off 1-1 or combat shield. Vikings on deck. He's just looking to break right now. The Vikings targeting down the tanks. SCVs being slaughtered. Cure just grinding his way through. And Maru, what happened? It's gone. Oh, he had a double drop out on the map, but he had to bring it back because he was dying at home. But by the time he comes home, there's no home to come back to. A disaster for Maru. And now it's Maru's turn to do the desperate no economy counterattack that Cure obviously knows is coming. It isn't quite as dire as Cure last game, but it's very, very close. Cure retargets the tank and clumps of Marines and obliterates them. Keeps the tank alive, and I can't help but think that we may see Cure heading to a lead as this series drags on. Maru desperately sends out more, but Cure pumping out at home. He's sending everything into an attempt at a flank with those medevacs. But Vikings, Liberators, scrambles one of the tanks. So Maru will hold, but at what a weird army. The 2 Vikings on the ground, the flying Viking and a Liberator will get out. But at what cost? Maru lost the orbital. He lost so many SCVs. Those alone. Oh my god. He kept the Raven alive by that much. Another key part, upgrades. Cure just started 1-1, whereas Maru's already done with it. As Maru had that focus on his bio army. Maru loads up what he can. Gonna take a lot more than just breaking out to break back into this game. Oh, it's gonna be tough. Cure setting up a landing zone for maximizing his firepower against the Marines. He's got turrets. He's got supply depots set up to quarantine Marines that drop out. How many Vikings? There are 5 Vikings on the field, more than enough to deal with any medevacs caught out of position. That scan is going to give some of this away. He's headed all the way towards the main. Maru, his last attempt. The tank already hitting. It's a disaster. Well, good, not good enough. GG. Cure takes it. 2-1 for the People's Terran. He manages to scrape. Honestly, it felt like he was taking his sweet time getting across the map, but apparently it was the right amount of time. As Maru caught before his bioarmy comes online, and then after his kind of relatively weak Hellion attack, ends up being mostly blindsided by the strength of Cure's tank push. So that means Cure is that much closer to a repeat GSL championship. Alright, well, it's that time again. Put your likes and subscribes together for Maru in a 2-ranks proxy at any random time in the series. Only 14 SCVs, making sure he can get this proxy ranks down. Post haste. Oh my. Well, so far he's won 100% of the games he's proxied to Rex. And lost 100% he hasn't. Now, that is not just an education in strategy, but also in sample size. But so far, I think Maru confident in that early game micro, but as the game drags on, Cure showing his strength. Alright, Maru, you cheesy devil. A strategy Terrans have been employing in one fashion or another for 13 years of StarCraft 2. Which is about half of Maru's life. Well, and he's been playing since that point as well. 13 years of a StarCraft 2 career. Cure. Okay, so Cure has successfully scouted the severe lack of barracks in Maru's base. He knows there are no barracks there. And very much there should be, so he has enough information to know what he doesn't have. More Reapers popping out. No command center on the low ground means nothing particularly vulnerable for Cure so far. But now we gotta ask the question, is what's next? As that was the defining characteristic of the previous Proxy Rex game, was Maru's follow-up. Alright, single barracks, floating its way in. One of the most reliable scouts says there's no way that thing's going to be taken down before getting a full view of everything Cure has to offer. And the Reapers see nothing at the edge of the jump here. They jump right in. All of them surviving the initial volleys. Already getting a couple kills. Cure's got to be very careful. He's already losing. Oh, beautiful Reaper micro. Just disgusting. And Maru still hasn't lost anything. That one Reaper, it's healing. And he just he drops the barracks to try to block. I don't know if it helped, but I do love the move. And, I mean, he lost one Reaper total. Maybe, okay. One Reaper. Gets 7 SCVs and a Reaper of his own. Now this one's not going to go nearly as well. He comes in again. Might be able to delay. A few of those SCVs were softened up but not finished off. That one was a bit more questionable. Loses the rest of the Reapers for only 2 more SCVs, so that falls solidly into the very diminished returns column. Another command center on the way from Maru. He's putting it on the low ground. The Marines are trying to shoot down the flying building. Takes a lot of bullets. Very annoying. Buildings floating all over the place. Finally, the barracks is taken down. The other one sent back towards Maru's base. And now we gotta take stock of the situation. Maru at 29 SCVs has his command center already almost an orbital on the low ground and a 6-worker lead. He's also got a 3rd command center in his base, and so if that pays off, we're going to have a significant economic lead. Otherwise, the 111, we got a Destiny Cloud Fist build. Yes, for both sides. Barracks, factory, starport. Raven's now in production. Cure gets his 3rd command center, so I think Cure, in everything but what he has on the field, is a little behind, but he's going to leverage some of that in the form of a medevac drop. 3 Hellions diving into the main alongside 2 SCVs. Maru brings a Cyclone in to respond. Raven slaps down an auto turret right in the face of those Hellions. 6 kills. Looking good so far. Don't want to overstay your welcome. Ends up... Well, the SCVs are even going to get citizen's arrest on one of those Marines. But Cure equalizes the SCV count, and he gets out with the medevac. And those Hellions are not a long-term value unit. So I think a pretty good trade for Cure. That brings him a little bit closer to even. But Maru already has barracks 2 and 3 finishing up. Cure has not started them at all. And that means Maru's about to hit a production spike. Whereas Cure gets scanned by Maru, who's going to be probably a little confused as to where the rest of the production is. But Cure so far is focused on his economy, though he doesn't have any engineering bays yet. Sending out another medevac. He's got a Cyclone, the next most expendable unit, though Cyclones definitely have some value pretty much throughout the entire game. Cure really does need to get that production up. Adds 2 more racks. He's up to 42 SCVs. A scan spots a well-entrenched base. Still no engineering base from either side. They're both very concerned about a potential all-out attack, as both these armies are very capable of killing one another. The Raven count, we have 3-2 in favor of Maru. Just siege it up in the middle, trying to get maybe a... Yeah, well, this is not ideal. Oh, wow, that works. He disabled the boost. And with perfect Viking micro, knocks out the medevac with everyone inside. Honestly, I didn't know that. I thought once you hit the button, the boost would continue. But it actually disabled the boost just in time for the Vikings to hunt it down and kill it. So that's it. The more you know. How have I gone this long? Only Maru. Just Maru things. Well, every day you learn something new. Those Ravens, such a ubiquitous tool. Always useful. And in Maru's hands, almost never a liability. Which, they're expensive. They don't do anything but spell casting and detection, so you really do gotta babysit them. But now Maru jams himself into a pretty nasty spot outside the 3rd. Well, it's not outside the 3rd anymore, because the 3rd is picked up and is headed to the other side. Meanwhile, a single Marine, another citizen's arrest. The SCVs will take it out without a single kill, banding together. The power of community. Maru looking around the center. Unsiege, siege, unsiege. Scans, both sides. Vikings, Ravens. Oh my. As they jostle for position. It's a very important game for both players. If Cure can get if he can pull down a win, 3-1, all he needs is 1. Whereas the start of a momentum shift, if Maru's able to take it. Especially now that we're in a clear mid-game scenario. We have a solid amount of 62 workers exactly, 62 army supply just about. Maru still maintaining map control a bit, The upgrades, 1-1, they're both about even. Stim is a long way off. In fact, so far, the only upgrade is Stim for Maru. Stim's still pretty far off for Cure. Combat Shield for Maru will give his Marines a distinct advantage in these fights, even more than upgrades themselves for a while. But it is going to come down to execution. The timing. Whoever's looking the right way at the right time, or forces their opponent to look away. You can see over on the right, the upgrades are finishing. I'm not going to be too specific as to what, because the answer is yes. Armory was already built for Maru, who starts 2-2 immediately. Armory's still about 20-30 seconds out for Cure. Now that is a compounding lead. The 2-2 upgrades, if nothing else, might be a big advantage for Maru, but he's not going to let any other opportunity just sit by. Anti-armor missile. Dorito dusting. The scrambles. Almost only one Raven remains. Sniped off by Maru, but the Viking count goes to Cure. So it's essentially impossible, even for players of this caliber, to micro everything perfectly. So you can tell what they're trying to accomplish by focusing on what they're actually doing. And I know that sounded dumb and patronizing, but what I mean is, Cure was fighting the Vikings heads up, whereas Maru was specifically looking to snipe off the Ravens. So in the next fight, I'd be looking for Maru to essentially jump Cure on the open field with anti-armor missile and/or interference matrices, because Cure is going to have air control, but Maru still has his Ravens intact with energy. Now, a lot of the time the fights go down and you're not able to really pick and choose what you want to do. But in this case, Maru is left with Raven control and Cure with air control. 12-3 Vikings. Combat Shield is coming up. 2-2 and +1 mech weapons are all coming together for Maru, and if there was ever a timing. Double drop heading towards the main. Cure doesn't actually have any units there to respond immediately, though trickles a few up the ramp. The tank's taking their sweet time getting there. Loses a barracks. Medevac goes down. This will be cleaned up. Third base, well defended enough that Cure not thinking about diving. In fact, he's within sensor tower range. That might have just come up, I'm not sure. But Maru looking to jump this army, takes out another medevac to the north. And, well, settle in again. Maru just finished 2-2 and +1 mech weapons, but he doesn't really have the position on the map to exploit it quite yet. And by the time he comes across, Cure will match him. So overall, Maru has clearly been able to maintain the aggression, but he hasn't been able to break through. Well, actually, 2-2 ain't done yet. There's that anti-armor missile. The Vikings, the advantage not going to be nearly as much with the armor shredded. Marines underneath, getting obliterated by Cure's siege tanks. They might have less armor, but nothing's hitting back, and they still hit just as hard. The Vikings battling. Cure losing the fight. I'm not sure how much anti-armor missile affects this fight. Oh, but overall, Maru trying to jump on that 2-2 opportunity, using the Ravens to break through, but Cure holds the line. He just had a better position. He had the concave, and while I'm not a geometry expert, I can see how that fight was taking shape. Again, Cure barely holding on, but in a repeat of game one, Cure on the back foot, but he's not giving up so much ground that he's pinned. He's just barely able to get in position to block Maru at every turn. Now Cure has the supply lead, because Maru is not taking cost-effective fights. He's continuing to try to keep map control. He's only lost a little bit more overall. What is the tank count? Is 13 for Maru and 10 for Cure. And 2 more starports are on the way. We already got 2 starports for Cure. Wait, no. 3! He added them on, but he hasn't added reactors. Well, Maru added starports actually build incredibly quickly. They are, I believe, the quickest production facility to build in the game. About 30% faster than factories. So it's pretty easy to get starport production up. They're just kind of expensive. And now that we're here, nearly maxed out, with a huge amount of income, 3,000 some minerals, depending on how many mules per minute. And was that 1,200 gas? Yeah, we're on 4 bases of gas. And the upgrades are pretty much done. Like, they've invested in 3-3. We got +3 infantry. Weapons and armor with Maru a decisive advantage. No. No. Cure builds. A fusion! Boy. No, I'm not entirely confident for battle cruisers. Cure, if there was anyone to go for battle cruisers over advanced ballistics liberators, it would be the people's Terran, giving the people what they want, getting to the GSL championship. But I don't want to get people too excited, so as the clear choice would be for advanced ballistics for liberators to kind of carve your way through the siege tanks once you have air control. But the battle cruisers are not the be-all end-all, as they're very easily countered, but just having a few of them actually can make life very difficult. And they take a lot less micro than liberators, as they take almost less micro than any other unit in the game, the flying laser bathtubs. And they have a get-out-of-trouble-free card. Of course, Ravens are one of the only units that can keep battlecruisers from tactical jumping with that interference matrix. Technically, Fungal can do so as well. Berserk, but otherwise. Alright, settle in. The sensor towers are scattered throughout the map. The upgrades are finishing up. We're going to the end game here. The chess pieces are moving around. All of them very dangerous high explosives. And there's the advanced ballistics. The liberators. The Viking count goes to Cure, 17 to 12. Ship weapons, non-existent. Ship armor, also not there. Those are just stock Vikings on both sides, and liberators. Liberator moving up Cure, moving into the gap, finds a drop. Cure doing a great job of keeping Maru on his toes here, and in fact pushing him back across. Maru is building a tentative defensive line. His TPM is skyrocketing, which is kind of the point of turrets overall. The turrets per minute growing. But the siege tanks are just scattered throughout. Now, what does victory look like? I know technically in a game of StarCraft 2, that means killing all your opponent's buildings. So rarely do we get to that stage. Maru has pretty much his entire side of the map, besides the contested very center bases. He's got... you can't actually tell whose sensor towers are whose. Though the one in the center, which is kind of ambiguous, is clearly Maru's. You can take your guesses. Advanced ballistics done. Cure was building, I believe, 5 liberators at a time. He's actually maxed out. We may see him throwing away a few SCVs here. Or at least drawing them into deliberate frontal service. As 84 SCVs is a bit much at this stage of the game. High-sec auto tracking. Alright, here come the scrambles. Looking for more anti-armor missile. Coats the Vikings, making them incredibly vulnerable to Marines. Vikings as well, of course. And Maru, just one Raven. Sure, you can't, if you can't beat them, you must join them. Very simply, that fight entirely turned. 24 to 17, but clearly the anti-armor missile, the defining characteristic. He needs Ravens. You must have Ravens. I don't know. Rapid reignition thrusters for a moment. Does that mean he was looking at fusion core upgrades? We got ship weapons. We got mech armor. More starports on either side. High-sec auto tracking done at almost the same time for both players. More command centers. Maru's Raven control is so damn good. And Cure's Raven control is non-existent. I don't know, like, he's gonna try to break out with brute force. But the Ravens are like, the most dangerous scalpel for the army. I guess Swiss Army knife was more accurate, but they can remove the key parts that he needs to deal with. And potentially handle the rest. The anti-armor missile comes out again. It looks like Maru's gonna fight straight up. A few auto turrets might make the difference. The Raven's trying to tank some of the damage. He's thinking about adding more. And again, 7 more Vikings on the way for Cure. They're both using all their money as they spend it. No, that's how it works. As they get it, as they receive the minerals and the gas, they are spending it on things and stuff, and mostly Vikings. Like, in Cure's case, essentially only Vikings. Maru's splitting it between Vikings, command centers, and Ravens. What's the command center count? 5 orbitals apiece. I do think Maru has more. It's starting to get hard to track. Actually, just finished 3 more. He's got 8 orbitals. A fusion core for Maru. Ravens again. Anti-armor missile dragged into the entire army. I don't know why you wouldn't fight this as Maru. The ship weapons upgrades. Well, it's plus 1/1. Cure has the numbers. So Vikings hit really hard. Which means the anti-armor missile, which increases the damage dealt, doesn't do that much to change how many hits it takes in these fights. The time it matters most is if Liberators get involved, or if there are Marines. Otherwise, the actual Viking v Viking fights are much more decided by sheer numbers. But Cure needs Ravens. He needs Ravens so badly. Like 1 or 2 even. He's relying entirely, I can empathize, but he's relying entirely on brute force. Whereas Maru's a bit of a wizard here. Plus 3 mech weapons is now done for Cure, equalizing those upgrades. But Maru is clearly taking more of the map. He has so many orbitals. Anti-armor missiles again. Splitting up the Vikings. He uses, interference matrix to dismantle more. And turrets underneath, and those are going to benefit dramatically. Maru just wades into the fray and walks out almost as seemingly unscathed. Like a decisive victory for Maru there. There's a clear dichotomy between these players, a clear split in their styles. And Cure, the Vikings aren't enough. Yeah, Maru's Raven control. He's even like dipping in. Like, oh, that's a demoralizing moment, I think. I don't know. I hope they get a break after that. Like, you gotta turn that one around. Oh. You need the Ravens. I applaud Cure's effort to avoid it, but it's been true for most of the 13 years of StarCraft 2. It's true today. Those late-game spellcasters, especially air-based spellcasters, are just such a force multiplier that no amount of multiplying your own conventional forces are going to equal. So, Cure. Oh, no. The Achilles heel. I'm rooting for Cure, personally. By the way, I'm completely unbiased. I'm an unbiased caster, and I just try to tell it to you straight, and I want Cure to win. Okay? That's what I want. Maru has won enough. He makes it look unrealistic. Cure is the people's Terran. And even there, demonstrating why he's the people's Terran. He's showing, he's like, but it's hard. Like, Ravens are really hard to micro. And they always die. They just wander into the fight and die. Maru's such a tryhard. Okay, I don't know if he sounds like that, but the people's Terran. Oh yeah, didn't last game start with a proxy Rex? So, 3 for 5 so far. Game 5 of the GSL. I really hope you guys are enjoying. I was really excited when GSL announced that they'd be sending out the replays for plebs like me for a nominal fee to check out. And this was my first opportunity this season. And if you had any games I haven't cast that you'd like or you recommend, we still got a few more on the agenda. That'd be awesome if you tell me. But I really hope you're enjoying. I mean, you're now... We're over an hour. Jimmy? An hour? It's TVT, though, right? So we're just getting started. I hope you enjoy. I like to think my commentary is getting a little bit better over time. Though, feel free to say it's perfect and it has always been perfect and never needed to change. But thank you guys for watching. I always will look to bring you the most exciting, the most dramatic, the most fun, real-time strategy. Any game, any level, at any time, though usually about once per day. Especially if we get those 1,500 likes for this. Yeah. So thank you. And now we'll see how Cure handles the proxy ranks. Reaper's jumping in. It's good to see that GSL is very similar to my average ladder games, which are proxy rexes over half of the time. Reapers now. Maru's response is similar to Cure's. But it does feel like Cure is maybe double or triple dipping here a bit much with the Reapers. Loses one. Pulling the SCVs is really the only direct answer. Okay, well, once you kill the first Reaper and you have a Hellion out, it becomes a lot more difficult for the Reapers to find an opportunity, at least for a while yet. We've seen Maru find that exact time and slip back in towards the main, but... Ugh. What? Maru! Oh wait, he does have a gap there to move around his base. Losing a lot of SCVs. And by that I mean only, well, 5. Will he trade for SCVs? It looks like yes. He gets a Reaper, so that's not too bad either. It's a Hellion. Honestly, pretty good. Loses 8 SCVs in total, so Maru is now in that same scenario that Cure was in. In the, several times now. I'm saying they all blend together. No, they don't. But it's hard to pick out which of the proxy wrecks I'm talking about now. But losing SCVs, but having infrastructure and essentially a more capable army in the early game. So we'll see what Maru does with it. Another SCV down. Reaper comes in. Medevac is out. I'm not sure Cure noticed it, but I mean, there's still a barracks hanging out. So just watching. Barracks is actually, much like many things Terran has, it's just better versions of what the other races have. Why do you think we have 2 Terrans in the GSL finals? 4 Terrans in the semifinals. The barracks is just a slightly more expensive but way more effective overlord. Honestly, I do think floating buildings need to be used as like scouts more often. They're already being used a lot, but just in general, send out their scouting barracks. It's like, yeah, but I have a map hack built into my command center. Oh yeah, and it only costs energy. Oh, well. Good point. Good point. Sorry, I had to get a little salty. So, where are we now? Ravens. Cure. We're not at that stage of the game, that late game. Ravens are definitely more of a dynamic option earlier on. Still almost required in the early game, but not nearly as game-losingly necessary. There's a reason it's called a mirror matchup. And you have access. Though I joke, especially in Bronze League Heroes, about the pick ban phase, where one player chooses battle cruisers, the other player chooses Thors. No, you gotta use your best tools at every possible moment. Come on, Kira. Unbiased. Either way, I do want to talk about Kira, as he is my frequent and essentially perennial choice for player to throw under the bus, who a lot of people don't consider to be a top tier player, or like to be He's a top-tier player, but he doesn't have that... He doesn't get shown off for his micro plays, I guess. He doesn't have the flashy multitasking micro. He's the definition of hard work, as you can see from his wins in this series so far, and his losses. It's just... He has his style, and he's very good at it. He's willing to adapt somewhat, but he's mostly willing to let Maru exhaust himself while he focuses on his production. And I think he's always been underestimated somewhat. Very willing to, in his fateful series against Zest. It's been so long. It's been so long. I miss him so much. In his fateful series against Zest, where he won the GSL finals, really using those Widow Mines to incredibly great and frustrating effect. But if you have the tool, you gotta use it. And Kier understands that. And that's why he has quietly continued to be a top 5 player in the world. I think Kier, though, after this series, even if Kier ends up turning it around here, and I feel like Maru got a lot of momentum with that match, I'm still tomorrow gonna be like, oh, I don't know, Kier might be the underdog here. Like, he just has that effect. But he's deserved his place. Well, wins the GSL finals. I don't know if he's got this one. Well, this drop looking a bit dicey. Guarding the Marines, targeting the engineering base, which are on a relatively safe... No. Okay, well, he denies the +1 armor upgrade. And not too far from completion. That will give Maru a pretty decisive upgrade advantage. Not just in timing, but in the fact that now he has +1 armor advantage. And Maru using those Ravens to great effect again. Infantry weapons. Level 1 done for Kier. +1 armor a long way off. Maru starts 2-2 immediately. He is on the ball with that. I don't think Maru wants to lose another TVT series in an incredibly high-profile tournament to a player who most people would put many ranks below him. But enough about the World Finals, which in interviews he's still salty about. The Ravens on both sides, slowing things down. Kier reforms his defensive line. Siege tanks are my favorite unit in StarCraft 2, I think. They're up there. I just really like... all I wish is we had the StarCraft 1 siege tank sounds, okay? I would pay an unhealthy amount of money to even current Blizzard for just one thing. There are actually some custom mods. You may watch me cast some with the Brood War sounds for many of the units. Just so good. So good. So distinctive. I think StarCraft 2 went a little too realistic with the sounds. It's a little harder to distinguish exactly what's going on as easily as like in Brood War. But there's also a lot going on in StarCraft 2, like dozens of Marines hunting down just a dozen from Maru. They're forced away. The terrain of the jungle, the only thing keeping them alive here. In the ancient cistern. Not really a jungle, just an overgrown alien. Okay, we're getting off track. You know, in my defense, it took this long for me to go off on some tangents, so... that's pretty good. Over an hour? Sometimes like 2 games. But... Shut up, Jimmy. And I already told them to like and subscribe. Kier, despite all the damage, despite the upgrades, despite everything, has a 10 supply lead, and most of it, all of it in army. He's actually got 11489 army supply. Kier once again has built a stronger force, and Maru is going to be forced to respond to it. Well, Maru does have 2-2 upgrades, so this is almost an anti-timing here, unfortunately. Oh, the anti-armor missile on those Marines, just lining them up, teeing them up for the tanks. And they land a massive volley. And Maru continues to slip in supply. +1 mech weapons now done for Maru. Vikings and Ravens chasing down. 4th command center landed for Cure. Actually backing off. I'm gonna try to reconsolidate, though. I don't think he realizes. He knows Maru has 2-2. But I don't think he realizes what a supply advantage he has right now. I'm actually kind of surprised at how little supply Maru has at this stage of the game. As it doesn't seem like he's taken that many more losses. He hasn't. He's actually lost less. Kier's just macroed better. Though Maru, I think Kier not... Yeah, he's not confident in his own army supply. And a lot of it is those upgrades, which are such a huge deal in this matchup. Maru buys himself some space, but loses a lot of Marines in trade. Getting chased down. Here, still 194 to 171. What are those 4 reactors being added here? On a bunch more racks. Maru found 17 SCVs over the last minute, which has just compounded the army supply lead for Cure. That is a huge army. 60 to 19 Marines, but there are 3 Ravens to none. And those 3 Ravens, with anti-armor missile, a few interference matrices, force multipliers. Oh god, here we go. Anti-armor missile on the front line, softens up a bunch of the Marines. Vikings kiting back, tanks still intact, looking for more. Other anti-armor missile attempt, not enough. Cure breaks through. Marine armor litters the field. He has successfully driven Maru off this base, but not the decisive victory that he was hoping for. Well, Kira still at 200 supply. Are we going to see the switch into air? This map is just so wide open that trying to go mass Sky Terran will get you surrounded by Marines, and I think that's the thought process here for these players who are still very focused on Marine tanks. Sure, we got some Vikings in the field, but it is not a mass Sky Terran army quite yet. There it is. 3 starports. Some had to give at some point. Cure, it's not getting done with the Marine tank. It's just not happening. He's going to switch into... you know what I'd like to see is another armory or 2. In order to get those mech upgrades in a much more timely manner. Especially if he's going to avoid... Oh, there we go. The People's Terran, a 2nd armory. If he's going to avoid the Ravens, the least he can do for his units is make sure they have an upgrade advantage. 2nd armory, though, for Maru. Not to be outdone. Though he doesn't know, it's just we're at that stage of the game. Alright, siege tanks. Liberator's already in position. Anti-armor missile softens up the Marines on the front, and the siege tanks will slam the point home. Scrambles 1, 2. Is he going to go for... He's gonna move up just a little, carving his way into the tank line. That one tank of... Oh my god. You need Ravens. You need Ravens. So badly. They're so good. Oh my god, the stims. But even if it has 1 HP, that Marine does 100% DPS. And it's 100% a problem right now for Cure, who is now getting surrounded on both flanks. Both at the front. And, well, he gets dragged back. He doesn't get surrounded there so much as dealing with it. And the tanks are unsieged. The Marines will stem forward, get 3 or 4 of them. Siege tanks laying into them. Throw themselves onto the tanks for a little bit of friendly fire. Just obliterated. I don't even dare dream that that's going to be for battle cruisers. For Maru, the fusion core, and the production tab. I don't even dare. I don't whisper of it. I calmly state I do not believe that will be for battle cruisers, because Maru is far too smart for that. He's far too good at micro. Maru will very likely look for a critical mass of advanced ballistics liberators to complement his Sky Terran army. But what if? Though I don't necessarily think battlecruisers. The main advantage is if you're going to throw the game into chaos, and you're going to be fighting in so many different locations. Your first player in this Global StarCraft League Grand Finals, building 2 battle cruisers here. It's the man, the myth, the Maru, Yamato Cannon researching. He will be bringing the fleet, it has been called. Maybe using that open field that I was mentioning earlier, and the battle cruisers to tear open the lanes. Will Curie get an opportunity to see him, though, as he is currently down on supply on bases and is struggling economically. Well, it's happening! Even if Maru has a decisive advantage here. Well, wait, Cure has Ravens! And why is this still alive? Cure! Hello? Anyone? There's no reason that should be doing it. It even got hit a few times on the way. Alright, dealt with. Plus 1 ship weapons. Maru. Does he bring him onto the field immediately? Or does he wait? There's no reason to wait, I think. Maru's already at an advantage. There's no reason to give it away to the scan, either. He may be looking to win with just a decisive volley of Yamato cannons and then clearing the field. I'm proud of Kier, though. He's built Ravens this game. Is it a little condescending to, in the GSL finals, be like, good job, you built the unit, that's very good at this stage of the game? Yes. Is it on brand? I'd argue also yes. Is it going to be enough? Now that is a real question. The battle cruisers are headed north. That tactical jump is such an issue. If you're not already the aggressor, the Marines. That very, very unlucky Marine. Anti-armor missile on both sides. Dorito dusting these brittle Sky Terran units. Cure. Gonna have an additional hastiness here. As clearly, he can't slap down his auto turrets because of the siege tanks. But the battle cruisers are uncontested. They're just gliding through, murdering everything in sight. In the moment anything gets close, they can just jump away, but they're clearing an entire base out of SCVs. How do you deal with this as Cure? He retreats. But every time you go back, he can just jump away. Cure is on the clock right now. In fact, they use their Yamatos. He jumps! And he's out of there! A split second! And with near full HP, doesn't even really need repair. Has 1 SCV for it. Maru! Well, what is the Viking count? I said we maybe wouldn't see the whole Sky Tent. Well, here we are. 5 plus battle cruisers, ship weapons, 2-2, mech armor. Maru's gonna have an advantage on that as well. Kira never started, +2 mech armor. A tiny drop. But enough to delay that command center. Kira's maxed out. It just feels like he has no control over the situation. It's such a tough spot. Maru's gonna micro out of it. Okay, he deals with it. Auto turret. Okay, alright. Is high-sec auto tracking done? Maru has it. Cure does not. Building armor. Maru has it. Cure does not. Battle cruisers. Maru has it. Cure does not. Cure. He's built the army this time. It's clearly been a lot harder for Maru to push now that Cure's mixed the Ravens into the composition. But Maru has added battle cruisers in turn, which can technically be countered by Raven Viking. but it's still a precarious position. All right, some scrambles on the tanks. Anti-armor missile. Is it time for the Yamato cannons? He's not firing. They're kiting back. Anti-armor missile, but now this is the key of the battle cruisers. You don't have to wait for the Liberators to siege. The battle cruisers just delete the siege tanks, glassing everything on the ground. Cure admits defeat. But, oh, Maru's had enough. He dunks on him. Oh, you can't run. Oh, he fires the volley. Oh, Cure lowers his Vikings in submission, and Maru. Oh, no mercy at all. Maru with the tactical dunk. Oh my. Wow. Okay. Oh, Maru. A decisive victory, putting him on match point. Putting him one match away from another GSL championship. Cure, still, again, holding on. Clearly showing why he's a contender. But Maru feels like he's gained a lot of momentum. That game. Well, with that, Maru's on match point. You know what that means. Yeah, there's SCV out on the map. Oh my God. Bonus brownie points if you got it beforehand. Kira attempted the proxy Rex. It just did not work out for him. Maru with the split proxy here. You're not going to scout. Honestly, I don't know if it's better to scout. Because it's not as deadly as a proxy 2 Rex. It's such a weird amount of commitment. Maru seems to toe the line so well, knowing exactly how much he can get away with. One thing you can't help but notice about Cure is, even when he has the advantage, he's a little reluctant to press it. As... like in that last game where he had a 25 to 30 supply, even more than that, an army supply advantage. Just almost not believing his army could beat Maru. Maru has that effect on people. Maru has won so much in so many tournaments over so much time that I do think it is hard at certain points to be like, wait, am I winning? I gotta... And it wasn't a decisive position, and Maru had the upgrades, and he had a defensive position. It better not just end, like... I think that'd be fitting, though. Is epic battle crew, like a series of epic back and forth. And then, Maru just comes up and kills him with 3 Reapers. Maru's building a factory out here. The SCV on SCV action ends with the Reapers coming in and shutting things down. Cure, really, very well aware of what's happening now. He saw the factory on the way. Maru gonna just expand behind it. So, Cure gotta be very careful not to lose a critical mass of units. Or SCVs, rather. Probably won't lose too many units, but the SCVs are would have been the constant issue. Medevac on the way for Cure. He's gonna try something. The Medevacs are not just a defensive tool at this stage. They are clearly for getting across the map and getting into the base, as well as supporting what you already have. A couple Hellions in the Medevac. Builds a bunker, which I don't mind that choice at all, as it can help. You get minus a 25 mineral restocking fee. Salvaging it is just fine. And definitely denies any opportunities for coming up the ramp that Maru has done several times throughout this series. What an exhausting series as well. Best of 7. And we have now gotten more. This is game 6. I believe the longest series. Or the longest high-profile series I have ever cast. I believe it was Maru versus Sarah of the King of Battles tournament 2022, I want to say. King of Battles 2, something like that. Where a best of 7 ended up at about 2.5 hours. Maybe a little bit less than that of gameplay. So, what I'm saying is, we got some competition. That's of the relatively recent high-profile tournament. In StarCraft 2 history, there have been games longer than that. But Heart of the Swarm was a dark time. And I'm not talking about the dark time we're currently in. Well, that is one of the weirdest interactions I've ever seen. The grenades bouncing the Reapers, who decide they no longer want to waddle across the ground. Or the grenades bouncing the Vikings on the ground. You saw it. Here comes Cure. So things have progressed in a halting manner here, as Cure just decided, instead of anything particularly fancy, he's just going to do the straight-up push at the front. And Maru only has one siege. Maru's supply blocked. Maru. Against Macro God Cure. This is not a mistake you can afford. And he's supply blocked before the siege tank even started. Like, not like he's building a... No. He's going to have one tank for a long while. That is a potentially game-losing supply block. Now, Cure still has a ways to go. Maru's going to have Stim. There's a Raven. The Eternal Tool. The Liberator, able to take out the tank. How much energy on the Raven? The flank has been spotted, technically. Which tank do you disable, is the question. He has enough for an interference matrix and an auto turret to potentially absorb some... Oh my god, the SCVs! 11 SCVs slaughtered! Cure's doing it! Maru just... Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face by some siege tanks. They're natural while they're supply blocked, as the saying goes. Now, Maru's decided to do the same thing. Well, he goes for the stab across the map. Oh, wait a second. Oh, a siege tank gets disabled. Oh, another one. The Raven is so useful. So much value. 16 SCVs dead. 17. Dead even at 22. Nobody gets a natural. The Raven. Maru didn't use the Raven in a haphazard attempt to break out. Do you know how hard it is to make that call? Just think about it. Just come on. Thought experiment. Siege tanks knocking on your door. You lose almost half your SCVs. You lost your natural. Your supply block kind of tilted. Can't even get a tank out. You know how hard it is to make the call to go all the way across the map? When you have... He potentially had the tools to break this. But instead, he went across, and now, there and back again. A Maru story. The Marines split out of the medevacs. He cleans up Cure's attack. It looks like the Viking and the medevac will get out to tell their stories. Not a particularly happy ones. So Maru, on the ropes, decides to go outside the ring, slip around, and come up behind Cure, and then go back around to fight him again. But in this chess boxing match, where we still have the remnants of the proxy, it's still anyone's game. Maru has the map control with his army here. He's got the medevacs, and he has stim done, which Cure does not. Whereas Cure just has the economy and the production, which is kind of a mainstay of his style. He sends out a double medevac drop. The Raven went down in those fights, but the Viking just snapped up, just chopped out of the sky by those Marines. Stim is about to finish for Cure. If Maru realizes there's not that many Marines here, he could just drop He might just drop anyways. He doesn't care how many Marines are there. Oh, he draws the Viking away. Cure might be looking the other direction. The double drop on both sides. Things heating up again. Well, Cure has that singular siege tank. A handful of Marines, but Cure himself is going to send out a drop. Maru does have a tank in position here. Stim in. Siege tank. Easily kills a group of Marines. Another group. 2 big siege tank hits will be enough. And the scattered remains of Cure's Marines alongside Maru's tank will be enough. And now the drops will meet up. How poetic. Of course, Cure doesn't have nearly enough Marines to fight this. Maru has 1-1 on his engineering base. Whereas Cure just has 1 engineering bay with a delayed +1 attack. Very stressful game thus far. It's on the line, match point. Maru loads up again. Same medevacts. The upgrade advantage is going to be significant. It does appear the game will go on. We're not going to have a decisive knockout blow. Even though it looked like both sides had an opportunity for a few moments. Cure for more than a few moments, as he was sitting right at the edge of Maru's natural. Okay. What a series. One of the best GSL finals, I think, ever. No matter how this ends. It is hard. It has to go above and beyond for a mirror matchup. TVT has a tendency to be dramatic, but I just think the split of styles, the complementary split, because they both do similar compositions. We haven't seen a significant split. We haven't seen any real mech. Sky Terran has been similar. But the methodology, the attitude even, that these players have is clearly different. Well, armory on the way for Cure. I believe he picked up a second engineering main. Yeah. Maru drops back into his main. Armory done. On both sides. Has Cure added on barracks 4 and 5? He has. Maru actually hasn't yet. Just his production line is so beautiful. For you base builders out there, Maru must be quite a satisfying sight. Cure has had a bit more of a haphazard time with it. Maru continually carries the early game to the point where just getting his buildings up is clearly the priority. More gases. Everything's calmed down. As at this stage of the game, neither player has a decisive advantage. It's evened out. Worker count's almost even. Upgrade, slight advantage for Maru. But Cure. Well, they're both getting their 4th command center. 2nd factory. Maru has a slight edge in most counts, besides the supply itself. Siege tank count goes slightly to Cure. Oh, he's just going to fight. He's going to force a cancel on the 4th command center. So, there is a minor to moderate win for Maru. It's not a minor win, but it's definitely not a major win. It's like, I forgot I had this coupon for another Big Mac, kind of. Oh, cool. Like, it's not life-changing. In fact, probably shouldn't have that Big Mac, but, like, it's a free one, so that's cool. So, like that. I hope that helps. Thank you. Oh, Maru came back around, and Cure guns him down, and just like that, this game is upside down. Like, no, I already used down, but Kier now has a 30 supply advantage, as gets all of those units in the medevacs there, as well as having more production up. Able to compound it. And, well, Maru will have the +2/+1 infantry weapons. Wait, did Maru not start +2 infantry armor? That's just a mistake, right? There's no reason. It's not like he doesn't have the money. Maru. That's just a mistake. There's no reason not to get it. Even at this stage. Like, he's not just going to stop building Marines. Though he has for now. Kind of interestingly. Huh. No, there's no way he's trying to save the 200 and some gas. So that means Kier may swing back into an upgrade advantage. Maru really isn't building more Marines. Like, he's really not. Oh, he starts +2 armor. Okay, I'm validated. Kier's already got his triple starport. More and more being added on, and here we go. Both players neither wanting to risk it once we got past that early game chaos. And now it looks like we're going straight up to 200 supply Sky Terran in the most coherent manner. So I gotta ask the question. If there was any game to go for him, last game was good. I don't think Maru really needed the battle cruisers in order to secure victory. Though they certainly threw Kier off. It was clear Maru had an advantage. But here, the thoughts in his mind. So far, Kier has picked up on Maru's strats about a game later. Though Royal Blood is a more entrenched map than Ancient Cistern, it's a lot harder to attack outside of the middle of the map. There's a lot of choke points, a lot of areas that can be denied and or easily covered with sensor towers. Alright, well, 200 supply is closing in. Here comes anti-armor missile. Gets the Liberator, some of the Vikings, and Kier has a decisive Viking advantage in this fight. 13 Vikings to 10 in total. A couple Liberators as well. Maybe able to just take down the command center. Pretty decent win. Moderate win there. Thor on the way for Maru. A technical counter, especially to just adding in damage to an air fight. 3-2 and 3-3 on the way for upgrades, respectively. Kier's maxed out. He's closing in. Maru is pinned on 4 bases, which is still a healthy economy for now. Vikings exchanging fire. Both of them very trying to count the exact number very quickly there. They travel in packs to hide their numbers. Siege Tank Viking. It seems like the more this series goes on, the further back we go in StarCraft 2 history. Siege Tank Viking and Mass Raven was essentially the default late game Terran versus Terran in the GSL for the first few years. And there were a lot of Terran versus Terrans in those first few years of the Global StarCraft lead, including featuring Maru as well. So, now, does either player break the stalemate with any other sort of arm? Well, we've already seen Maru adding the Thors in here for that long-range anti-air possibility. Still no fusion core. What is the Raven count? The Raven count is not quite as relevant as it really does come down to energy and spellcaster usage. But, like, 5 Ravens to 1 is pretty decisive. But 8 Ravens to 6 is not going to be nearly as big a deal. Command centers throughout the field. Shoring up the tank line. SCVs to the front, repairing, slapping down some turrets. Has a forward sensor tower. Kier is kind of lightly containing Maru. Not so lightly. But he's containing Maru to these 4 bases. while trying to expand to the rest of the map himself. If Maru ever breaks out, he has plenty of command centers to land at all these bases. But he does have to break out first. Anti-armor. Makes quick work of those Marines with the siege tank. +1 ship weapons and armor for Maru. +1 weapons already done. Armor on the way for Cure. The Viking count. Maru 24, Cure 23. Ravens 4-3. Wait, anti-armor. Whoa. The biggest quality of life update with the patch. Oh my god. Was the different color of the anti-armor missiles, so that way it doesn't look so ridiculous. It's more like a Cheeto dust than a Dorito dust now. So, Maru is using his low-energy Ravens to block shots from the Vikings. So that way his Vikings can win the fight. Was it worth it? I mean, maybe? He does seem to have won the fight. So, objective accomplished? Yeah, I was wondering about that in the other games. But that was the most obvious usage we've seen, which is the Vikings will target the Ravens, as they're considered an equal level of threat. So Maru just trying to drag some of those volleys away from his own Vikings so he can eventually win the Viking War, and now the tanks will be forced to retreat off the back of that because the Liberators are unchallenged in the air. Here we go, anti-armor missile on the Vikings. That high-impact Thor gonna start blasting. Almost always the better trade. Pretty much the Javelin missiles, the explosive mode is exclusively for making it so mutas no longer exist. Even against Vikings, the high-impact single-target mode is usually better. Alright, here we go again. In fact, the Viking lead is significant for Cure. 17-10. Another command center is gonna die to Vikings. Cure not letting go of this center spot here. Oh, siege tank. See, it almost seemed like it just woke up there, but... Oh, SCVs. Murders 8 of them. Not that SCVs are serving a massive role in this game past the 50 mark. In fact, both these players may want to start getting rid of some of them. With mules replacing a lot of the mineral income. 5 Ravens at a time for Cure, who's been converted. Okay. Well, Edgar Allan Cure over here gonna try his best to dismantle Maru's defenses, but Maru has been a tough character to pin down. That Cure keeps finding wins in fights, but Maru doesn't seem to be slowing in his expansion rate. Even though Cure's taken out command centers. And now Cure looking the other way. Here come the scrambles. The Ravens of Maru open up an opportunity. Completely negate most of the siege tanks. Still a few in the very center of the map here. Handful of Marines annoying Maru. But now here comes Cure. He's got Ravens with energy. They'll lose a couple of Marines. No Liberators behind it. With no Liberators, he can't really deal with that siege tank count unless he's willing to scramble them all. That's a lot of energy on the Ravens used. Viking, not again! I had a deja vu. We've just been in this place before. Bases flying up, but the Vikings take it down. Anti-armor missile scrambles the Thor and softens up the Vikings. Cure is taking victories left, right, and center. Mostly center so far. Maru dropping just dropping Marines on isolated tanks. A very, very tense part of the game here. These players. One bad fight, you lose the game, but it's also so hard to fight at all. Maru wandering into some tanks. I don't think he knew those tanks were there. At least not at that moment. Anti-armor missile. Cure, fully embracing the Ravens. Doing a great job with them so far. Well, scrambles one tank, it gets away. More scrambles from Maru. Locks him down. as all the ground units are getting deleted slowly but surely. Thing is, Kier desperately needs to keep his tank count up, as Maru is still building Marines. Kier is as well. I'm not sure where they are. Kier has slowly but surely expanded to his half of the map. He's gathered a whole lot of Vespene gas, and he starts the fusion core. But if he loses this fight, it might not matter at the end of the day. Oh, the anti-armored Marines don't care because the siege tanks aren't firing back. And Maru clears the field for now. And Kier is forced into total retreat. And that hint of battle cruisers may become desperation as time goes on. As Maru so far has held. He's still pressing forward, and this is before that fusion core comes online. Maru's actually heading towards the production. If he gets on the production, that's one step away from victory. And Kier is losing a lot of supply here, though Maru has lost almost all of his aircraft. And, well, with nothing in the air, only the Thor remains for really... Oh my god, he hits the deck with the Viking. I don't know about there. He hits the deck in front of everything, but the siege tanks aren't quite able to get the hits they need to clear him out. And Kier does start a battlecruiser, but he's lost so much. Building 8 SCVs at a time. Not sure how much those are needed, but a reflex, you would take that much damage. It's that time. Maru, not gonna let this base go unchallenged. Even if it means a bit of a competitive mining companies here. More battle cruisers on the way for Kier. Not the position he really wants to be building them in. Ideally, you build battle cruisers like when Maru was last game, when your opponent is already playing defensive, and you can put the battle cruisers wherever their defenses are weakest, and further thinning them out. Maru is not in quite as desperate a position as Kier in the previous match. But he did lose most of his air in that last fight. He's rebuilt it. He's rebuilt 11 Ravens. Oh, it's just Ravens. The SCV killed by the red version of its brothers. Battlecruiser's on the way, but that many Ravens. Well, that's so many Ravens. Built a dozen. And each of them can potentially disable a battlecruiser in a fight. Of course, the battlecruisers can avoid that. We'll see. How many Ravens does Kier have? He still has 4. Battlecruiser gliding in. It begins. He didn't upgrade Yamato cannon, which means no mostly guaranteed damage. Ah, he started it. I think he meant to Yamato, and then he just never started on the fusion core there. Maybe got distracted during the fights. It begins. The ultimate late game. Once again, we've dragged it. It's almost 30 minutes. Tanks. Outplayed by Marines. Can't shoot everything at once. Good splits by Maru will deny the base. How's the income been? Kier has had an advantage, though not a huge one. For quite a bit, though. It's starting to even out. I think that, unfortunately, it doesn't split between gas and minerals. More battle cruisers. Cruiser jumps away towards the corner. You can actually see which direction it jumps. Unfortunately, you can't tactical jump Ravens. Kier's relying entirely on the cruisers here, and the Ravens, he can just keep a tab on them. How many orbitals? 5 orbitals, so he can't scan endlessly, but pretty close. As long as he knows where the Ravens are, the battle cruisers are safe. Oh, God. Kier, jump. Oh, my. It's a disaster. One chop. The flying laser bathtubs have exactly the weapons capability of laser bathtubs now. Well, more like just bathtubs. Those high-sec auto-tracking turrets, they aren't for Maru. He may be able to get one away, but Oh god, it's so sad. Oh wait, they both jump out. God, it's so fast. 18 HP. Wait, the interference matrix was cast, but it didn't land. The battlecruisers are still creating a lot of space, which is their greatest strength, is just how hard it is to deal with them with small amounts of supply. Though losing several to interference matrix was not ideal. Like the most obvious and predictable thing. Well, here we go. Some turrets. Oh, it's going down. Scrambled on most of the tanks. Only one is still firing. The Marines are closing in. There's almost nothing to contest them. I have no idea where the battlecruisers are, but I know that where they aren't at this stage of the game. A handful of Marines are denying Maru's mining. Maru goes back to mining, but he's going to lose several of these SCVs. Not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. Here comes Maru again, pressing in towards Kira's third base. The battlecruisers headed to the other side of the map in what seems a little more desperate this time around, as Maru with Marines and Ravens has been able to dismantle the majority of the defenses. And there's, at this point, you go Ghosts to EMP the Ravens. He scrambles whatever he can get, which is almost all of the army. Anti-armor missile. Everyone brittle right now, and most of them unable to shoot on Cure's side. Maru is marching in Cure. He needs to turn it around right here, right now, but with what? He's got battle cruisers on the other side, but this is just Marines. They could be replaced, and they have been to great extent throughout this entire series. The battle cruisers are strafing through just about everything. But Maru's heading home. 4 battle cruisers against the amount remaining. The base is being gutted. Cure put all his chips on the battle cruisers. A true people's Terran. But it looks like Maru will be taking home GSL number 6, as this final fight is more one-sided than a Mobius strip, as the battlecruisers can't even fight back. There's almost nothing left here. Maru takes out the cruisers. Maru is your 6-time Global StarCraft League champion. His command of the late game and the early game, I think, makes him the decisively best Terran in the world and a clear and constant contender for the best of all time, though still evading him. He is your champion, taking Cure in 6 exhausting games. Cure, as always, putting up a hard fight. An impressive season. I don't think he can be disappointed. No one expected him to get this far, because they had just always underestimate the People's Terran. But thank you. Thank you to GSL for continuing and for sending out the games so we could all experience them. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I made a big chunk of your day a little bit better. Going for 1,500 likes? Yes. No. It's going to be hard to top that. Thank you for watching. Good luck, have fun. I'll see you next time. Stay chill.
Hell, it's about